Today is the 12th of November. It is 16:33. Is that right? Yeah. 16:33. Man, is it dark. Good grief. I wonder why I can't accomplish anything outside. So we're what, 8-9 days out of an election. Joe Biden is not president-elect. He is the projected winner still. And it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good for any Trump supporter, to be quite honest with you. Even I'm at the point where I'm like, God still can pull off something interesting. But this is really kind of what I want to get at. I don't really care about people who believe in, I think anybody has the right to believe whatever they want to believe. If you want to believe that that human beings were made by aliens and engineered out of apes, have at it. If you don't want to believe that there is a God or various gods or multiple gods or all kinds of stuff, or if you want to bow down before trees, if that's what you want to do, you have the free will to do such a thing. I personally don't subscribe to any of that. And why is that? Because the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob has always answered my prayers in some in a miraculous way. And I had something pretty miraculous happen yesterday that is, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around. But I'm going to go at it from this perspective. God alone knows who won this election, regardless of how the votes are counted, regardless of what is fraudulent and what isn't. Now, how our system works, all the votes, we have a system in place that allows for the counting of legal votes, what is admissible as a legal vote. If you look at some of these races and how close they actually were, I mean, whether you like it or not, Donald Trump was way ahead at the end of the night. And in the morning, mysteriously, he wasn't, which is interesting. Particularly in states that he needed. So I don't think anybody can deny that there wasn't some funny business going on. There are people out there that believe that voter fraud doesn't exist. I don't know why they think that. This is what it's like saying shoplifting doesn't exist. People aren't going to agree with that statement. But when was the last time you saw somebody shoplifting? Seriously. Just because you don't see voter fraud doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Absence of proof is not proof of absence. Think about that. But hailing from Chicago, hailing from Illinois, where it's a time-honored tradition for dead people to vote, and a lot of dead people vote here, folks. I worked with a guy who used to brag that he'd vote 7 times for the same candidate. They just take him to different precincts. He lived on the south side of Chicago, in the shitty sections of Chicago. Make sure everybody stays poor for the rest of their lives and get free handouts. And, everybody's content with having a popsicle put in their mouth for the rest of their life, and they think it's gold. So I am going to come at this in a different direction. So let's say Joe Biden and Harris get the presidency. And there is a God who sits on a throne, who hates lying, who hates cheating. A God who is just. See, people forget that. People forget that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is a just God. They forget about that. Oh, that was the Old Testament. Jesus changed everything. Jesus said, I didn't come to do away with the law. I come to fulfill it. And Scripture's pretty specific about how Jesus returns. Jesus returns on a white horse. When Jesus was here the first time, he He rode into Jerusalem on a donkey. What people don't understand about that. Prophets rode donkeys. Horses were weapons of war. Scripture says when Jesus returns, he's going to return on a white horse. White horses were always used by the commanding officer, royalty, the general, the emperor. There's significance in the color of the horse and its significance in the horse itself in the ancient world. Prophets in Israel always rode donkeys because it was more of a symbol of peace. God wasn't involved in war, so to speak, but the prophet wasn't supposed to be there. He was supposed to be the emissary of the Lord, and he always had a donkey, didn't have horses. That's how it was in the Old Testament. Look at the Old Testament story of Balaam's ass. I mean, it was across the board. It was a cultural thing. So when Jesus returns a second time, it's returning in judgment. It's returning in war. The meek man on the cross, forgive them for they do not know what they do. That guy is gone. He's coming back in a whole different perspective. He's coming back as just to bring justice. One of the things God hates is lying. The other thing he hates is an unbalanced scale, system of measures. In the ancient Jewish culture, you were weighting. You put a weight of something and charged somebody by how much it weighed. If you put your thumb on the scale, you were cheating. God hates that. He brought judgment on nations for doing stuff like that. When Jesus, the one time you see Jesus get angry, and he didn't go, flip out. What he did is he sat down. He took the time to fashion a whip. He sat down and fashioned a whip. I don't know what he made out of, but it takes a little time to make a whip cord. So he sat down. Takes a lot of thought and total control of his anger. And imagine him sitting there, fashioning a whip, making a whip, getting up in the temple with the whip, cracking it a few times to get everybody's attention, because that's what he did. Cracked it a few times, get everybody's attention, and then drives out the money changers in the temple. Now, I'm not going to go into explaining how that worked, because that had to do with the culture in the Roman Empire and different types of currencies coming from all over the Roman Empire and having a common currency. And what happened is you have poor people coming in to give their sacrifice to the temple. They don't have the money. They don't have everything. They come with a certain amount of money. And these guys in the temple were making a profit off of it. And they weren't supposed to be making a profit off of it. And they're cheating. They're cheating the system. They're taking advantage of the system. Jesus is pissed off, goes in there, calls them a den of thieves, drives them out of the temple. And if you read Scripture, they planned to get rid of him right from that instant. They started to plot, how are we going to get rid of this guy? How does that apply to the 2020 presidential election? It's very simple. Ill-gotten gain. Fraud. Because if God is on the throne and God is just, and if an election that we had was won by fraudulent means, by people who that are not lovers of truth, okay, plain and simple, they're not lovers of truth, and the election is actually called and won by ill-gotten gain, the people that get in power that way will not prosper. This is a warning for everybody that sees this. People who get into power by ill-gotten gain never end well. They will never prosper. And the nation will not prosper under people who get elected like that or get into office like that. God is not mocked. You reap what you sow. If you sow lies and you sow deceit, you will get lies and deceit in return. You may not get a paycheck for that right away, but you will get it. You will get it. So if we end up with a Biden-Harris administration, trust me, nothing good is going to come out of it. Nothing prosperous will come out of it. It may look that way on the surface, and it may even work that way for a short period of time. But in the end, the chickens come home to roost. In the end, you're going to reap what you sow. It has long-term consequences for us as a nation, because if you get away with that once, you're going to get away with it forever. Forever. If there was wide-scale mass voting fraud this time around with mail-in ballots, and you need to know something. All the Western countries of Europe don't use mail-in ballots like this. Why? Because they realize that it's very prone to cheating and fraud. All of them. All those countries will not use them. It's illegal. But here, they pushed it. The Democrats pushed it. Think about it. So this is just a very simple warning. If there is a Biden-Harris administration, and they got in, because the truth is, if Trump won fairly, if he really did win fairly, and he's denied that, then whoever wins by fraudulent means. That will not be blessed. That will not be blessed. God is not mocked. All of you who watch this who think this is all nonsense, I'm telling you, just because you may live 50, 60, 70, 80 years and you've never seen evidence of God in your life, that does not mean he's not there. For him, that's not even a blink of the eye for him. And generations can pass before he decides he's going to put a foot down. So if you leave descendants, if you have children, grandchildren, if you care about them, if you really care about them, there is going to be a judgment to pay for the foolishness that you can't even imagine, because you reap what you sow. You sow an election and win an election on lies and deceit. Every single election after that is going to be lies and deceit to make sure that your people stay in power forever. Forever. Oh, you'll have a different person up there, but he'll be part of that system, and he will always belong to that party in that system. And it'll never change. And what you end up with is you end up with a false sense of democracy, a false republic. It took 75 years for the Soviet Union to fall. 75 years. Think about it. It took a long time. A lot of people were murdered, taken away in the middle of the night, killed. Once people get in power like that, it takes bloodshed, generally takes bloodshed for it to collapse. And historically, that's always it's been. The United States, as you see it now, as you're watching this, may never be the same. It may never be the same. They are going to implement policies that have long-lasting repercussions because they want to drag us into a global community where we're subjugated to the laws that basically make our Constitution worthless. If you value free speech. There is not free speech all over the world, folks. I hate to tell you that. Go to Canada. Go to the UK. You get thrown in jail for hate speech. Somebody decided to have a definition for hate speech. You can't speak out on anything. There are things that you can't touch, things you can't speak out, you can't discuss. You go to jail. They take you away. You get a trial. You think it's a joke? Look at it. It goes on in Canada. What if they make it a crime to misgender somebody? What if you refuse to call somebody by their own personal pronoun? Say I want to be called by the personal pronoun called they, and somebody misgenders me or mispronounces my pronoun, my personal pronoun, preferred personal pronoun. They tried to do that in Canada, in case you didn't know. They tried to make it a law that you're going to be punished when you do that. If that's not draconian, I don't know what is. So remember this. There's still a chance that Trump might pull it off. I don't know how he will, and I know this. Scripture says, I'm the God of all flesh. Nothing is impossible for me. There's another verse that says, nothing is impossible for God. Nothing. I believe that wholeheartedly. I'm 56 years old. I have seen that. I have seen him move in ways in my life that I don't think anybody could even understand. Since the day I was born, me being able to sit here and look into this phone is an amazing thing, because I should not really be here. I really shouldn't. I have had a divine hand on me my whole life. I don't know why some people don't and some don't. I think I know why, but that's beside the point. I'm just trying to make a case that there is a God. He is just. He's loving, but he's also just. Don't forget about that. Somebody gets ill-gotten gain does not prosper. It may for a season, but it never prospers. People that cheat, lie, steal to get ahead, or make themselves wealthy in a dishonest manner, it never ends well. It never does. They may prosper for a while, but in the end, the chickens come home to roost. Remember that.